I'm Tracy Rathbun, and this is my wonderful, beautiful partner, Kent Rathbun. No.
Damn it, I thought it was me.
Lynae Fearing.
I was going to say beautiful.
I know, right? So we are actually doing our first live Facebook interview today, which we're going to start a series.
Podcast.
And we felt like it was probably a great idea, since my brother-in-law, Kevin Rathbun, was going to be here, that our first interview be with the Rathbun brothers. So
Fantastic.
we are excited to have these guys here today, and we're hoping that we can let you guys get to know them just a little bit better, and maybe have a sneak peek into what this business, this crazy business that we've chosen, is all about.
How about if y'all tell us how you, as you were kids growing up, what sparked your interest in cooking? I've heard a story that when y'all were kids, while the rest of us were watching The Brady Bunch and Charlie's Angels, y'all were watching Julia Child and Jacques Pepin.
Well, we watched
Charlie's Angels too.
Charlie's Angels too, so we didn't miss that.
I mean, fair point.
You're not that
There were
weird.
a few things.
But it was funny though. We did come in from outside while we were playing, and we would watch Julia Child, Jacques Pepin, the Galloping Gourmet. I mean, we watched these cooking shows. Our mother loved to cook, and our dad loved to cook. Our mother was in the business. You know, she was not a chef, but she was in the business, and she grew in the business as we grew up as kids. So, you know, when we were young, she was a server in a restaurant. By the time we were teenage kids and getting into the business ourselves, she had graduated up to be a maitre d' in one of the hottest restaurants in the whole city. So
And y'all grew up in Kansas City?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri. Liberty, Missouri is where we're from. We also were in Boy Scouts, both Eagle Scouts.
That's a big
You know
deal.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes
That
we
is a
forget
big
about
deal.
that.
That's a
because there's
little,
long,
you know,
long
what, that's a
You
little
too.
known fact.
I think
and,
y'all need
that's
to
kind of
advertise
good.
that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. And so we did a lot of camping, and we did a lot of cooking on the campouts, and believe me, we were the
Yeah, we were the Rathbun brothers.
Most
even
people
then.
brought warmed up
Really?
SpaghettiOs in a can, and we always
Brought steaks and
brought
potatoes.
steaks
Oh,
and
yeah.
potatoes. And
No
did
kidding,
the right
man. We
thing.
were
Dutch
hanging
oven
in
apple
there.
pies and stuff like
Oh,
that.
my gosh.
Absolutely.
So, Kent, tell me about your first job.
Well, my first job was actually it was at a place called Mr. T's, but Mr. T's was only about 30 days, and then I decided, you know, I didn't like that job because it was. First of all, anybody know what a broaster is? Remember the broasted chickens? Okay, I even at 14 years old,
We don't know what that is.
a broaster is a fryer that is under pressure. So imagine a pressure cooker with grease.
Hot grease
Okay.
in it.
That sounds really dangerous.
It is
By the way,
That's really dangerous.
even at
Although they've
14,
been around forever. They
even
gotta
at
figure it
14,
out.
that's what I kept thinking to myself. I'm gonna get out of here before this thing explodes
Yeah.
and takes out the entire
Maims you
kitchen.
for life.
Yeah. So I went to the local Sambo's restaurant, and if you
That was a
remember,
step up.
That was a step up, and
Which was a
Big
half
time.
mile from our house.
yeah,
It was
half
big
mile.
time then.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Sambo's, think of Denny's with a really bad PR issue. Okay, you know they ended up losing the company over a racial lawsuit because of the Sambo thing, and it was really interesting because it was just a nursery rhyme then, but people were very uptight about it. But we worked there together. I worked there first as a dishwasher, and literally went and talked to the night cook about teaching me how to cook, and within about 3 weeks I was on the cook schedule.
How old were you?
14.
So you were already interested a little bit, and y'all were already watching Jacques Pepin and Julia Child.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we had been cooking in the Boy Scouts since we were
You're already
10,
doing the Boy
11.
Scout thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our father knew the owner of Sambo's, which was even better because he used to go there all the time. So he let us, you know, I mean, he had child labor there. He didn't
Right.
tell anybody about it. But
Yeah, I was working at
So-
Dairy Queen when I was 14.
Right. And back then, I don't think it wasn't, you know, people didn't pay as much attention to it now. But
Right.
at 14, it's sometimes tough to get a job in some restaurants.
It's no interesting.
But we
though.
rolled with it.
Sambo's was a cool training ground though, because you know at any given time you could have, you know, eggs and bacon, a waffle, fried chicken, a steak on the grill, and making a BLT all on the same table. So you had to become very organized, and you had to be very kind of, you know, in your-
Multitask.
Yeah, very much.
Keep
and
your
so
brain
it was kind of
organized.
a good training ground, I think. You know.
Absolutely. And on the weekends when we worked the graveyard shift, you really got a psychology. You became an expert on drunk people too,
Oh,
because you
God.
knew exactly what they wanted and when they wanted it,
Yeah.
and
A
how long
burger.
you took. Yeah, but
Milkshake.
they'll never even know. Let's just go.
Yeah.
overcook it, doesn't matter.
Well, that and there was a few people that came in that were going, "Oh, we need to feed them quickly."
Soak up some of that alcohol.
Yeah.
Get them some coffee.
So what was the next job after Sambo's? And how long was Sambo's?
Well, Sambo's for me was 2.5 years. So I worked from about.
You're older.
Yeah,
a little
I'm
bit older.
So I
18
worked from
months.
about 14 and a half years old to about 17 at Sambo's. And on my 17th birthday, my mother was working in this French restaurant. And she asked me if I wanted to come be an apprentice. And of course, I barely even knew what that word meant. And so I went to work. You know, I basically went from Sambo's to the highest end restaurant in the city and working in a French kitchen. And it was quite a change for me. Although great. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like I could still reproduce about 90% of that food. And, you know, it was a lot of fun. And then Kevin came and worked in the dish area and the pot sink. But
So y'all started at that restaurant at the same time?
He
Sort
came a
of.
little bit before.
Yeah, he came a
and
little-
then so I was at Sambo's for some time, and I did the same thing he did. I was a dishwasher for some time, and then became a cook. Cooked at Sambo's, and then took a job over there as a dishwasher. But I was only the pot washer for a couple. I wanted a job in the kitchen, but they didn't have room for me. So then our mother was working actually at the Rainforest, which was one of those circle restaurants on top of a big building, you know,
Oh, yeah.
go around, right?
I didn't know Kansas
So-
City had one of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was called the Rainforest, and she was the general manager there. So I worked in that kitchen, and that's kind of where I, started learning how to cook on a broiler and do saute and make sauces and stuff like that. So that was kind of my hiring piece
Yeah.
in the beginning.
What are both of y'all's most memorable cooking experience? I know you've had a lot.
Well, I mean, every day's another day. I mean, what's tomorrow look like? I think that there's.
I know you've met a lot of famous chefs
met a
and
lot of
cooked with
people,
them, and
cooked for a lot of people, and
Who's the most famous person you've ever cooked for?
or most impressive, like
Yeah,
Julia Child or like some of
Jennifer
the,
Lawrence.
cooked for Jennifer Lawrence a lot. I mean, all those people. have been
She
in the
still comes in the
A
restaurant a lot, right?
Yeah, she's been. She was in there during the Hunger Games like 10 or 15 times. So, who else? I mean, I don't know. We see them all the time.
So I've
I
cooked.
don't even know.
not impressed by
I tell
anybody.
them I'm
George
not
Clooney.
impressed anymore. I tell my people, I said, no autographs. Leave those people alone. Let
Yeah,
it be
that's-
dinner. It's just dinner.
That's
Leave them alone.
that's exactly right. We have the same policy at our restaurant. No
Yeah.
selfies, no autographs.
Yeah.
Leave these people alone. Let them have dinner.
It's so important. Man.
They're here to
It
eat.
is,
They're
yeah.
not here to be on stage.
Absolutely. It's so important.
So I've cooked for Julia Childs twice. I've cooked for Jacques Pepin. I've cooked for President Bush, George Bush,
The first one?
Junior,
Junior.
and both presidents. I actually cooked the inaugural ball for George Bush in Washington. Rock stars. I mean, the list goes on. It's a pretty interesting career because we get to meet these people and
And they're usually everyone is so enamored and impressed by chefs these days. It's
it's
great.
kind of crazy. I think the most interesting conversation I ever had was with Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks was staying at the mansion when I worked there, and I just walked by and talked to everybody about how their breakfast was, and he was there, and I didn't treat him any different than anyone else, but he stopped and started talking to me, and he's wanted to know where I grew up, really loved the food, thought the creativity was great, and just went on and on. And, I mean, literally, I had to excuse myself from him because
He was so fascinated.
Well, I
You
needed
had to go make some brunch.
I had to go make some brunch, but I mean, it was
Back to
really, and
Sambo's.
he was just such a nice person. And I mean, every once in a while you meet these people and you just realize they're just as normal,
Interested
as
in
everybody
your
else.
life as you are in their life.
Yeah, it's very cool.
You have a fun job. So, what do y'all admire most about each other?
Well, I can tell you what I admire about my brother is he's one of the most kind people, most gentle people that I've ever met in my life. And I look at that attribute in him, and I feel like I have it, but he's really got it. And he inspires me to be a more kind person and be less critical, and that is definitely for me my number one thing about him.
That's so
I mean,
sweet.
he's just the most kind person ever.
Oh, I agree with that.
gonna get all choked up.
I know, you're gonna make me cry.
He
He's
is.
such an asshole.
You admire that?
I'm really super glad that I could give him that option. No, I love my brother for lots of reasons. We're a little different in some ways. You know, growing up, he was kind of a gearhead, loved cars, loved doing that kind of stuff. I'm more of a sports guy, right? So I have like good eye-hand coordination, but he's really great at computers, and
Right.
you know, he's just
I
really
can see
good
how
at like,
that
technology.
Entered
you know what I
into
mean?
his
Like,
life now.
yeah, and it works so well in his, you know, what he's doing now and where the world's going. You know, I don't play basketball and football and baseball anymore because it's not getting me anywhere.
You can do golf.
I can't play golf, but I'm really suck at that. But you know, he's really, you know, I admire that, and I ask him a lot of questions about it. So I think that, you know, that's something that he really kind of went in that direction of just understanding like that part of.
I like to say my brother's about as mechanical as a blade of grass.
So Kevin, as you're talking about technology and how that moves forward and what we're doing, I think over the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen some pretty big changes in the restaurant business and the hospitality industry. From my point of view, and then I want y'all to kind of tell me what you think, we're seeing, because of the price of rents and because of labor, you're seeing more small restaurants that pack the tables in, because you have to. Less decor, so people are spending a lot less on their restaurants. You're not getting the restaurants of the 90s that people would spend $4 and $5 million on. And I think it's geared towards smaller portions and drinks. Do y'all agree? Do you feel like that's a trend?
Do you
Or
think
kind
it's
of
smaller? I see like big giant plates of food going on.
Well, I think it depends on the type of restaurant. I
Yeah.
think locally owned. I'm not talking chains. I'm talking, you know, locally owned restaurants.
Well, you know, the
Independent.
The fact is, in today's day and age, with everything going on in the world in terms of labor market and the way things cost and what they cost, you know, there's only one way to make this work. So if you want to serve high quality food that is beautifully presented and really tasty and good food, this cannot be done in big portions at a price people are willing to pay. The math just does not work.
Right.
So the only way that people can continue to cook really beautiful food and really enjoyable food is to manage the portion size, manage the price, and to Tracy's point, make sure that there's plenty of alcohol sales, because restaurants with high alcohol sales have a lot of leeway. There's a lot of room in there to do food. I mean, if you're running really high alcohol sales and you want to run a 34% food cost, you can do that. You know, Kevin's Steakhouse, I don't know what your food cost is, but I'm sure it's higher than most. But
Being a steakhouse.
But because of the
Prime
wine
steakhouse.
sales and all of that, the food cost is not really that big of an issue, because you're selling quite a bit of high-end liquor.
Right. We have conversations all the time about it's not necessarily about your percent. Sometimes it's the gross dollar amount. So you may be running a 40% food cost, but because of what you're selling, you have to sell a steak for $55 or $75.
Right.
So how many, you know, for that $30, roughly $35 that you're making on that item. But I think, to me, it's interesting because I feel like the public doesn't always understand it, is like, oh, I don't like that place, it's too expensive. I'm like, well, you know, the decor is not free. And the plates aren't free. And what I see from young people opening restaurants is they don't take into account that every night you're breaking plates and glasses and losing silverware every single night. And so there's not a one-time startup. It's just interesting to me, kind of the view that people have of this business. I don't know why we do it. Why do we do this?
Nearly. Go ahead.
I talk about occupancy rate a lot with people in the restaurant business, you know, because it's these retailers now that are coming in and building these monster high towers or you know, condos, whatever, underneath. There's all this retail, right? And they have a space, and there's some tenant improvements they give you. There's some, you know, things they do for you. But at the end of the day, you look at that number, and you know, or however you work the deal, right? If your occupancy cost gets above, you know, 6, 5, 6, there's no reason to be in business.
Right.
Right.
In the restaurant business, because you
Right.
can't make that up.
No.
You know, and
Yeah.
we're making such a small margin in the restaurant business anyway. I mean, anywhere.
Right.
I mean, you're
Right.
talking
I don't
about.
think people realize that. I think
You know,
they
the
see a
industry
busy
average
restaurant
is
and they
like-
think, "Oh my God, y'all are so rich. You're making
Yeah.
so
Well,
much
the
money."
industry average is like 10%. That's
Yeah.
and 20% if you're great. If you're
Yeah.
great and you got all
Or
the
Mexican.
clientele and you're
If
yeah,
you have
and-
Mexican food.
you know what I mean?
Something
You're
that's
running-
right,
you're running a
simple,
good deal.
simplistic food.
You know,
and
it's-
there's some that run 30%. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's
Wow.
restaurants that run 30% because of what you said earlier. It might be 4 walls and some chairs they got down at the,
Yeah.
whatever. Which those are the best kind, right?
You know,
Right.
Those are cool kind.
whenever I teach classes, I always try to bring a little bit of discussion into the class about kitchen economics. You know, and one of the examples I use, and Kevin will appreciate this because he deals with it every day, is like if you're buying a prime strip steak that's 16 ounces, that's a $35 piece of meat before we ever even open the package.
Right.
Right.
It's $35 to us.
Right.
So the only way that we can sell that and make any kind of sense of it is it's got to be double that at least, and then you're
Labor.
50% on that, right? And so I don't think people that aren't in our business really kind of understand completely
I don't
what it
think
takes
so.
to
I don't
operate
think
a
they do.
restaurant.
No.
You know,
No, they don't.
because not everything that comes in the back door goes out the front door as a sold product. I mean,
That's right.
it's you have waste in the kitchen. Sometimes you have theft. I mean, there's any number of things that happen to cause restaurants to not be able to pull a high profit. And so when you are pulling at 10%, 12%, 15% in this environment, I don't know. That's not
Be happy.
You'd be pretty
Should
happy
be
about
pretty
that.
happy, yeah, absolutely.
So, Ken, I know you've gone through a lot of changes with your life
I have yeah.
recently. How are things?
Well,
looking?
things are really good. The last couple of years have been a little rough. Tracy and our family has gone through a lot of change with me leaving my former company. But I that's in my rearview mirror, and I'm looking forward all the time, and I am very, very happy with the moto. Tracy and I are excited about what we've built here and what is coming. This restaurant's only been open for about 4.5 months, and we're already seeing really nice numbers and great feedback. I'm doing some consulting things with Tracy. We're working on a couple of other projects with what you guys have got with Shinsei at the airport and Lovers. I mean, all the catering that we do, we are very busy, and I'm very blessed and very happy.
So is that where your future is? That some of the new things going on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trying to pay attention to what we have going now. Trying to continue with Emoto and Lovers Seafood. There's a lot going on with them and what the food is over there, as you know. And working with the guys at the Shinsei at the airport. There's trust me, there's not a lot of extra time.
Right.
Well,
For sure.
We've been really fortunate because Shinsei's going on
13 years.
13 years.
No.
We signed our loan documents December 30th, I think, of 2005,
Yeah.
and opened on June 6th.
Yeah.
And so
Huh.
I know we've been so fortunate.
Well, and I'm just going to jump in and say it's not just fortunate. I mean, you two have killed it. I mean, Shinsei and Lovers are two of the greatest restaurants in the city.
Aw,
and you guys have
thank
done
you.
such a good job. I mean, you're not going to brag on yourself, but I'm going to brag on you. You guys have killed it, and you deserve every bit of success that you're getting.
Aw,
and
thank you.
guys have really, really rocked it out.
Well,
And what I've noticed most about both of those restaurants is customer retention. We get back to humility, and we get back to, humbleness and being good to the guests, right? And what you guys have at Shinsei and Lovers is just people coming back all the time. Right? So, again, opportunity. Obviously, you've done something right with that piece, and that piece is so important.
I was just going to say that I feel the same way. I mean, I think that restaurants that do well have a soul. They have a heart. They have a heartbeat. When people come, they feel more than just the walls and the decor and the food. They feel a friendship. They feel a family. And when you can create that,
That's true.
there's a loyalty that comes with the clients. And by the way, the staff too. I always say that the most important people in our operation is the staff, because if we cannot get them to articulate view of how things should go in a restaurant and go out there and act that, they can never reproduce that to the guest. And so, for us, it's always number one to keep the staff as happy as possible and to get them to understand what we understand, and that is that you have to love this business to be in it.
And I think
Right.
if you look around Dallas, just in Dallas in particular, but obviously what you've got in Atlanta, I think Kent is right, because Albernays,
Javier's, yeah.
there are incredible operators in the city, and why I think they're incredible isn't necessarily because they run the best profit margin.
It's the feeling that you get
Exactly.
when you go there. And not
Exactly.
just the decor, although that has a lot to do with it, but
Right.
when you were saying that, I was thinking about places I like to go repeatedly, and it's usually the feeling that you get while you're there.
Yeah.
Goes back to Cheers, man. People like to go where they know your name.
Yes.
I mean,
And the energy.
so important.
So Kevin, Rathbun's is how many years?
It'll be 15 in May.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be 15 years.
And then the steakhouse?
Steakhouse will be 11 in May. KR Steak Bar will be 6 in May. And Krog Bar will be 12 years, no, 13 years in October.
Wow.
You like May. We
Yeah.
must too,
Yeah, we
because
like
we were
May.
like,
It just seems like
June,
that's what
June
happens,
6th. Yeah, we like that early summer.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going forward. What I want to do. I mean, having 3 or 4 restaurants is plenty. Believe
It's
me.
plenty.
I think it's a lot to handle. Especially when you have your namesake on the door. Right?
Oh my gosh, I was
It's
talking about
difficult. People go, well, how you gonna,
how do you do that?
A lot of people in the restaurant business have said to me, I think the only problem is that you got your namesake on the door. You can't really roll these out
Yeah.
into 40 or 50 restaurants.
Yeah.
Well, I never really
Joe
had
Smith,
that
Joe Smith
intention
can't go
anyway.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never really.
But
had
you don't have that
intention.
desire, right?
I never really did. Yeah, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be around there. I think.
You enjoy what you're
be in
doing.
a restaurant, even people
Right.
say, "You ever gonna
Right,
retire?"
right.
I said, "Nah, I'll roll around here in a wheelchair and have cocktails, smoke
I know,
cigars."
we were saying that the other day.
I
We'll
mean,
be in our walker.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the beauty of the
Sit at the
restaurant
bar with a
business.
glass of wine.
If you could sustain and do great stuff, you can always hang out with people you like.
Well, I think we're all really fortunate because we actually like our jobs. Like if someone wanted to buy Shinsei, would say, what am I going to do?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I love what I do.
Yeah.
And to replicate it is almost impossible.
No.
So, I mean, Joe, we had some guys at the house the other night that have a seemingly incredibly successul restaurant company. And he was telling me that I think they have 150 units right now and what they were going to grow it to. Exactly. And I said, and he was talking about the dollars, and I said, I don't envy you even a little. Like, no desire. Like, I just.
No, we're not in it for that.
Clearly,
reason.
their desire is very different. Their goals
their
are very
focus, yeah.
different
Right.
than what we're doing. And we're in the people business. I mean, and
Right.
when you start to grow restaurants to that large, I mean, it's all about the strategy and the economics of making that work.
And
Oh
there's
yeah,
a lot of them.
you're making decisions like
There's
you're making
nothing wrong with
decisions
that.
like if we change the toilet paper to save,
We'll save 2 pennies.
if we save $1 per case on toilet paper, but then you have 200 units, and how much toilet paper you're going through every
No,
month?
thank you.
Well,
Exactly.
Can I give you a little?
don't wanna do that.
I'll tell you something interesting. So I do a little work with Studio Movie Grill, and I help them on their menu and
Yeah,
help
shout out to
consult with
Studio
them.
Movie Grill. We
Shout
love
out to
them.
Studio Movie Grill. But one of the things I learned real quickly is I was going to make a change on one of the products on the menu that was going to be about a 40-cent increase on the menu. And real quickly, the controller did the cost analysis on that, and just that one move would have yielded a $400,000 more in purchasing. Just that one move for that company.
Wow.
So when you
Exactly.
start to kind of compile these numbers and you start to go out to, they're going to serve 13 million guests this year. Okay, so then I thought, oh my gosh, man, anything I do now could be massively
It's a lot of
impactful.
pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. So I've learned so much from them about how to do these things, and
Yeah,
I'm
little things
I'm
can make a
happy to
big
be in my
difference for
restaurant
them.
where if I where if I have a few extra things, I can think about something to serve, and I can figure out how to make money on that tomorrow.
We can add another 5 cents per
Exactly.
thing.
You know, going back to it too, I think that, you know, like, we don't want to sound like, you know, these big major chains and restaurateurs and stuff like that. They do what they do too, and they do it beautifully.
Exactly.
We're
Right.
just very artists, you know, and
Yeah.
kind of like artists, you know what I mean?
Right, it's very creative. It's a creative business.
It's a creative business. It's being in them.
It's just a different
touching
drive.
them, you know.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, it's touching them, and it's hard to walk away from that. You know, it'd be great. I wouldn't mind having 30 or 40 Kevin Rathbun steaks. That'd be kind of beautiful.
I don't know.
No, you know, I don't know. It just it seems like
I think your wife might not be down with that.
Yeah.
She might be like, too much.
Your brother would be okay with that if you had a jet. I mean,
Right.
you know, if you have 30 or 40 of
there
those
are some
restaurants.
caveats. There's some good things that come with having 30 or
Absolutely.
40 of them if they're all doing good.
Well, I think
Exactly.
that we're all in the right business for the right
Yeah,
reasons.
Absolutely.
Kent, one thing I am excited about is your new product line.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Oh,
That was great. Nicely done. Babe. Yeah.
Thanks. Plug it
So,
back in.
you know, you know, back in my former life, I started a product line with some seasonings and some sauces and things like that, and so that is in the former life, and so I've reformulated some of my seasonings and rebranded them, and I received the first cases of the product yesterday.
oh,
So you're going to be able to go to my website, which is chefkentrathbun.com, or you can buy them at Premier Grilling. And you know, you never know, you might see them on the grocery store shelf soon too. We'll figure that out. But you know, the steak salt is alive and well. Yeah.
well, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, guys,
Thank you. Very nice to see you.
For our Facebook Live, guys, we're going to be posting this on all of the restaurants' social media feed, and then we are going to start trying to do this every other week. I think that we might be able to get Dean Fearing. Not real sure.
If you ask.
Yeah, let them ask.
Well, I can't ask.
I'll
Can't
ask.
ask.
It might just be me and Dean, but that's okay.
But we have.
No, he'll do that.
Yeah, we've got some great people lined up that we're going to be sitting down and talking with. And, you know, I think the great thing about this business is there is a kindred spirit and a sisterhood, brotherhood in this business. And it is great because, you know, when your friends do well, it's one of the few businesses that you are very happy when your
Yes.
friends are doing well.
Yeah, it'll be fun to
Yeah.
sit down and talk with a lot of our friends.
Yeah.
You know, I think too that if you're watching, and we hope you are, if you have something that you want to hear from us,
Exactly.
I think that's something that you need to do. You need to kind of let these guys let us know what you want to talk
Right.
about, what you want to hear
Right.
about. We like topics. Throw
Hey, I'm
something
open.
out.
If you see, if there's something you want to see on our menus that you haven't seen, put it in your comments. We're going to be going through looking at all these comments, and you can message us also. But we really want to be open and interactive with people. So we've enjoyed what we do, and we want other people to kind of be a part of it.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to be here.